Hi, it's Treva with In His Hands Ministries, and this is Let's Talk About It with Treva. Today we're going to talk about addiction, and we're going to talk to Margo here. We have her with us.
Hi.
Welcome, Margo.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this with us.
It's nice to be here.
Sharing your story, that's never easy. But it is very important that people hear the good news that there's hope.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And anyway, so most of us have a question, and I know from knowing you before, your background is that you were raised in a Christian home.
Right.
So what do you think, most of us have that question, well, if you're raised in a Christian home, how in the world do you get caught up in addiction?
Right.
Do you have anything you can tell us about that?
I was raised in a Christian home, but I do come from a family of addicts and alcoholics. So my mom and dad both were addicts, but they were clean before I was born. But I was always told, don't drink, don't do drugs. You're playing with fire if you do, because we have a list of them on both sides of the family. And so I did. I always was like, I'm not going to. And then I did, and I knew I had really messed up, because it was apparent right after the first time that I was like, this is just not good. It's going to go downhill from here. So I was always told, though, don't do it.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Well, how long were you in addiction?
About 15 years.
15 years. Mm-hmm. Wow. And then what was your drug of choice?
I really didn't discriminate, but I really did pills and cocaine. And then towards the end, I went to IV drug use. So.
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us just a little bit about your childhood? I know you just did. You told us some about it, but were there anything, do you think, that would have helped lead you into addiction?
Right. My childhood was good. I think there was typical family stuff there, but really I remember being young and self-esteem issues kind of came up.
Yeah.
That was the main thing. And then whenever I started using drugs, I realized, I don't think about that. As I thought I didn't. I did, but not as bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that was really, truly kind of the lead into it.
Okay. All right. What after you went into your addiction? I know there was a season in there, and I didn't ask you about this before, but when I know that you had gone into rehabs, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your life in addiction. What happened? What made it worse? All that.
Honestly, not too long after I started using, I went to my first treatment center. I was probably 17, and was there for a little while, left, had a little bit of clean time, not too much, and then started using again for a few years. I mean, and never went to another. But then my dad died in 2013, and I was already into addiction, obviously really deep, but it was just heightened after that. It was pretty bad. And so following that, I went into 2 more treatment centers and just didn't stay. I was like, I'm over it.
Didn't stay long.
I wasn't ready, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wasn't ready. I really was doing it. I was made to go. And they thought that would just totally fix me, get you out of what you're doing. But if you're not ready, you're not ready. And I just was not ready.
Right.
And so I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not done doing what I'm doing. And so I left, and not long after that was incarcerated, basically.
Yeah. And how long were you incarcerated?
A year.
A year?
A year.
What happened during that time?
Are you talking about my charges, or
No.
Just while I was incarcerated? I was there for so long, waiting to be indicted, basically. It was actually kind of ridiculous, but it helped me. At the time, I was super frustrated because I was like, I'm here. I should have already had court dates. They kept getting put off. and could have bailed myself out. And it's I a lot of people will call it like, oh, jailhouse, you're in jail, so you come to the Lord. And that just, it wasn't true. I knew the Lord, even though I was screwing up, but I still knew it, and I knew truth. And so while I was there, it was just a time for me to like, I couldn't focus on anything else. That's what I had, and that's what I clung on to, and that's what I chose to do with my time. And so while I was there, like I said, I could have bailed myself out. I chose not to. I felt like I needed to stay. And so I did. And I really just tried to work on myself as much as you can while you're in there. Right. And so that's basically what I did. Finally had a court date, and they were like, we're not going to send you anywhere because you've been here for so long. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I really didn't want to go to another treatment center. Right. I've done it. I've been there. I just didn't want to do it again. Yeah. And I really wanted to have probation, to be completely honest, as dumb as that sounds, because I wanted to know that I could, like, do it. Yeah. So it was a challenge for me, and I wanted that. And so I got that for, like, 10 years. But while I was incarcerated, I really started to feel like my heart began to change. It did start to soften. It wasn't as hard. You know what I mean? Like, I started to really have a care for like people and for myself. Mm-hmm. And so he changed my heart like while I was there, and still continues to. It's not like it was just a one-time thing. Like, right. It's a lifetime. Yeah, because there's things that can harden our hearts. There's things that can, make us cold. And so it's a continuous thing. Yeah. So, well, tell us a little bit about your life now. Okay, so you've been out for how long? I've been out since 2016. So what is that? 7 years? Yeah. That's good. So I'll be out 7 years, clean in October, 8 years. Yay. Yep. That's really good. Yeah. So where are you at in your life right now? Well, I'm married. I have 2 kids. I am a productive member of society, I guess you could say. There you go. Yeah. As people like to call it when you've been through all that. But I just live like a normal life. I mean, I do not base like my life around the addiction that like I used to have. I think people really get caught up in that. And sometimes people get mad when like I say that, but I'm not like my addiction. Yeah. You're a new person now. Right. And I don't like to like claim that like, oh, my addiction. Like I'm not an addict anymore. You know what I mean? Like I have to use wisdom. There's things like I wouldn't go put myself in a room with like a bunch of drugs, but like that's not who I am as like a person. And it didn't define me then. It's not going to define me now. And so I truly believe like God delivered me from that. Oh, that's good. There's a lot of misconception, I feel like, with addiction. Like a lot of people are like, once you're an addict, you're always an addict. And I'm like, no. Yeah, I don't agree with that either. No, you know what I mean? I used to. Years ago. That leaves the door open, though. It does. And years ago, a family member had told me, like, you're always going to be an addict. And I thought, well, if that's the case, why am I trying to, like, change it? I mean, like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. If it's not going to change anything, why am I doing that? Yep. And so, when he really did like deliver me from that, I was like, no, I'm not that anymore. Like, I don't have to live that way. I don't have to, continuously be like, oh, I'm an addict. And I'm not that anymore. That's not who I am. So you're happily married now? I am. That's awesome. Living the life of a normal person. Yes. Going on vacations. Right. What do you do for a living? I'm a birth assistant, so I'm a birth assistant for a local midwife. I also do doula work and placenta encapsulation, so just birth work. I think it's awesome because you were born again. God gave you another chance, and now that's the area that you're working in. Right. You're helping them be born the first time. Yeah. And now with this video, you're helping them be born again, hopefully, It's pretty funny how all that kind of works out. It comes around, doesn't it? It kind of goes together. And are you in church? I am. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a really serious question. Okay. Is there hope? There is. I always tell people that, like, it's really easy to give up on people who are in any kind of addiction, not just alcohol and drugs, but any kind.
Yeah.
And you get tired. You get tired of like doing for them. You get tired of, and I understand that. But as long as there's like breath, there's hope. And I always tell people that. Always, like,
Yep.
it's the truth. As long as they're breathing, there's hope for them to change. And it sounds so cliche, but it's just
But it's true. Yeah.
So, I mean, there absolutely is.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's always hope. Well, do you remember having like an aha moment? Like, is there a moment that you want to share where you knew, wait a minute, I got it. Like where you knew that the change was there. It's like, oh my gosh.
Right. I think it probably really was whenever I was locked up.
Yeah.
In the county jail.
It was like,
You had tons of time to think there, and there was nothing that was like distorting your thinking process. I mean, you were clear-headed, you know?
Yeah.
You just had to be. And I think that it was just like, you're either going to do this or you're just not going to live. I mean, it's pretty apparent. Like, you're going to stay clean, you're going to do this, you know, you're going to live your life, or you're just going to die. And really, years and years before that, I had planned on just dying.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times drug addicts are okay with that.
Right. I mean, I thought this is just how I'm going to be. And I mean, it sucks, but that's just how I am. And it's not true. I mean, but you think that. And so, it was just like, you have to make a change. Like, you have to. And at the time, I didn't really know if I was going to go to prison or if I was going to be left out. And either way, it was, you still have to choose to either live or you choose to die. Like, which one are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so, I was like, I'm not ready to die. Like, I'm not ready. Before I didn't care, but now that I'm clear-headed, like, that's not really what I want for myself, you know?
Right.
And what a shame it would have been.
I know.
To not experience my kids.
It's okay. Just take your time.
Or my husband. You know what I mean? Like, what a shame if I would have chose to do something different.
Yeah.
That they wouldn't have even had a chance to be here, and I wouldn't have had a chance to, like, experience that.
You don't know what God's plan is for your life. That's the thing. When you're all caught up in the drugs and in the mess, you don't think there is a plan, but the Word of God says that God has a plan and purpose.
Right.
Jeremiah 29:11. He's got that plan. He's got that purpose. We're all born with a purpose, and we forget that when we're in addiction.
Right.
So do you have a verse that you like to stand on?
There's a verse in Ezekiel. I do not remember the exact marking of it because I just don't. But the Lord talks about how he'll change your heart. He'll change it from like a heart of stone into a heart of flesh. And that's exactly what he did for me. I was so hard-hearted to everyone, to everything, to myself, to the things of the Lord. And he totally changed it. Like, he softened it. I have a compassion for people now. I have a compassion for myself that I didn't have. You know what I mean? I have a compassion for the addict that I didn't even have when I was an addict.
Right.
But just people in general. And so he really did. He changed a lot.
Okay, well that's awesome. I have one more question for you. So I want you to look into the camera, and I want you to speak to the people that are still strung out on drugs, and I want you to speak to their families, and I want you to say what it is that's on your heart. What do you think the Holy Spirit would have you tell them about their addiction and their family members' addiction?
If you're the family of an addict, you just need to remain faithful. Like, continue praying for them, continue loving them. It's really hard to be like, oh, tough love. And there's a part of that that's true, but that doesn't mean just completely shut them out. You cannot do for them, but you can still love them. You can still be compassionate towards them and realize that they are in addiction. That's not who they are as people. If my parents were not faithful, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. They
That's
continued to
good.
be faithful. They knew God was faithful. They continued to pray for me and did not let up. And if you are an addict, just remember, this is not the life that God has for you. At all. It's not. This is not what he meant for you. This is not what he has for you. And it can be so much more. So.
All right.
Yep.
Well, thank you very, very, very much. I appreciate it. Did a good job.
Thanks.
Okay. So that's about it. So we just are very grateful for Margo. I can't even tell you how proud of her I am. And she did this, and she did it on her own with Jesus Christ. That's it. She and Jesus did it, and she didn't count on other people to get her there. She counted on Jesus.
Right.
And so, but the prayers do help. So people, please pray. Please pray. Don't ever stop praying for the hopeless, because there is no hopeless. Like Margo said, you're not hopeless, and there is hope as long as there's breath.
Right.
So have a good day, and I'll see you next time.
I did not mean to cry.